The movie begins by introducing Tae-soo, who is narrating his past. He reveals that his father used to be a con artist. Once, when a neighbor got a new TV, Tae-soo's father took it and sold it in the market. Even though his father had a reputation as a scammer outside their home, he was very loving towards his two children. He was especially protective of Tae-soo's younger sister, Si-yeon, even when she was approached by a man. Tae-soo goes on to explain that he became a leader in his school and often got into fights. One day, he witnessed his father being beaten up at home, and the person responsible turned out to be a prosecutor. This incident made Tae-soo realize that prosecutors had real power because they could decide the punishments, even the death penalty. Tae-soo understood that while fighting in school might seem impressive, it was the studious ones who held real power. From that moment on, he decided to pursue a career in prosecution. In school, he was frequently caught sleeping during classes, but his teacher allowed it, assuming that Tae-soo was only talking about becoming a prosecutor without real intent. Later, while hanging out with friends in a club, Tae-soo noticed someone reading a book in the same club. From that moment, Tae-soo started reading books, realizing that his brain absorbed information faster in noisy environments. He even read books while being chased by the police during fights, finding that his brain absorbed information faster this way. The following day at school, Tae-soo's teacher was astonished by his exceptional test scores and accused him of cheating. However, when Tae-soo retook the test, he still scored exceptionally well, proving his abilities. The teacher apologized to Tae-soo and even treated him to a meal. Not long after, Tae-soo graduated and gained admission to a prestigious university. Afterward, he fulfilled his mandatory military service, where he continued to study diligently. During this time, he successfully passed the judicial examination. Before becoming a prosecutor, he underwent 2 years of training. It was during this period that he met a woman named Sung-hee. Initially, their marriage was arranged by Sung-hee's father, but it became clear that Tae-soo had genuine feelings for Sung-hee. Eventually, they decided to get married. Shortly after their wedding, Tae-soo was sworn in as a prosecutor. However, he soon realized that the job was more challenging than he had anticipated, as it involved solving cases every day, making it more exhausting than he had imagined. One day, Tae-soo found himself handling a case involving a teacher named Baek-ho, who had assaulted and harassed a student. To his surprise, the case ended without much trouble. Tae-soo's colleagues explained that the teacher's father had significant influence, while the victim's parents were financially disadvantaged. As a result, the case wasn't pursued further. Later, Tae-soo confronted Baek-ho, who appeared calm. Baek-ho claimed he had only been massaging the student's thigh, thinking it was stiff. He even suggested they go for a drink and offered money to Tae-soo, which deeply offended him. Tae-soo instructed his subordinate to restrain Baek-ho. He then met with the victim's mother and learned that the settlement for the case was only 5 million won, despite the severity of her child's injuries. The mother reluctantly accepted the settlement to spare her child from further suffering. Tae-soo then visited the victim, Ji-min, at her school. Ji-min explained that Baek-ho had initially claimed to be massaging her thigh, but had touched her inappropriately. Unfortunately, the school authorities sided with Baek-ho, disbelieving Ji-min's statement. Tae-soo, moved by the victim's testimony, decided to send Baek-ho to 10 years in prison. During this time, Tae-soo's senior, Dong-chul, invited him for a meal and took him to a place filled with case files involving influential individuals stored in a special room. Dong-chul explained that if these cases were made public, it would shock the world. He also revealed that he and his superior, prosecutor Kang Shik, were under threat. Upon learning about Kang Shik's reputation as a famous prosecutor, Tae-soo expressed his interest. Dong-chul, hearing Tae-soo's reaction, promptly extended an invitation to join his team. Dong-chul explained that Tae-soo wouldn't need to work hard anymore because money would flow effortlessly. Intrigued by this offer, Tae-soo listened further as Dong-chul laid down a condition that Tae-soo had to secure Baek-ho's release. Dong-chul revealed that Baek-ho's father had a close connection with Kang Shik. Tae-soo, driven by his own motives, eventually agreed to these terms, especially after Dong-chul knelt before him, a gesture that swayed him. The following day, Ji-min's mother received a 50 million won settlement from Baek-ho, leading to his release. That night, Tae-soo met Dong-chul at a location where he was invited to a party with their team. At the party, Tae-soo encountered Kang Shik and Baek-ho. As they drank together, Baek-ho mentioned the freedom to touch women in that place, making Tae-soo uncomfortable. He left the party, catching Kang Shik's attention, who expressed his displeasure by throwing a glass at a mirror. Approaching Tae-soo, Kang Shik slapped him and suggested that Tae-soo should become a lawyer instead of a prosecutor. He believed Tae-soo didn't comprehend the true history of prosecutors, which involved exploiting victims for money without genuinely resolving cases. Upon realizing that he had found the world he desired, Tae-soo and his newfound associates continued their party. After the festivities, Baeko and Tae-soo left together. However, when Baeko commented on Jimin's smooth skin and hinted at meeting her again the next day to make her cry, Tae-soo lost his temper. He attacked Baeko, but before he could reach him, Tae-soo's friend named Do-il intervened. He is a member of a ruthless gang from the Mokpo region in Korea. This gang was led by Mr. Kim, who had ties with Kang Shik and controlled the Mokpo area. Their gruesome method of eliminating enemies involved feeding them a special substance to their dogs, leaving no trace behind. Following the altercation, Tae-soo and Do-il were seen drinking together, before Do-il turned himself in to the police for assaulting Baeko. Baeko suffered injuries to his private parts, and Do-il was sentenced to 1.5 years in prison. The story continued with Tae-soo at the office, walking alongside Kang Shik and Dong Chol. Tae-soo felt that joining Kang Shik's team had significantly improved his life, enabling him to achieve his desires. For instance, Sunggi could host the 6:00 p.m. show, and Tae-soo managed to get Do-il released from prison in just 8 months. Even their colleagues were submissive to their team. Following this, a presidential election took place, and Kang Shik's team seized the opportunity to unveil a long-concealed case that would tarnish the opposing candidate's image and secure victory for their preferred candidate. Their chosen candidate emerged victorious, and they celebrated their success. The next day, Kang Shik's team exposed another long-buried case, leading to the imprisonment of the police chief. However, one of Kang Shik's colleagues appeared unhappy about this move. Kang Shik explained that he didn't want prosecutors to be bound by the law, asserting that prosecutors wouldn't be feared if they were confined by legal constraints. He declared that he could resolve everything the next day if his colleague changed his stance. Ultimately, his colleague agreed. The following day, Kang Shik instructed his team to reveal a scandal involving a prominent Korean artist. The public's attention quickly shifted to the artist's scandal, causing them to forget about the police chief's case. Consequently, the police chief was released. The story then shifts to Do-il, who had established a new sphere of influence and was quietly collecting money in Mokpo without Mr. Kim's knowledge, the leader of the Mokpo gang. Next, a senior prosecutor named Hee-yeon enters the scene. Hee-yeon is known for targeting corrupt individuals. She informs her colleagues that Tae-soo has connections with both Mokpo and Gangnam Mafia gangs. Hee-yeon also knows that Tae-soo's backers are Dong Chol and Kang Shik. On the other hand, a colleague of Tae-soo calls him and warns him that Hee-yeon is targeting him. The colleague advises Tae-soo not to meet his girlfriend, a budding actress, to avoid complications. It's revealed that Tae-soo has been secretly dating the actress. Suddenly, Sunggi overhears their conversation, causing Tae-soo to panic and avoid Sunggi. The next day, Kang Shik approached Tae-soo, expressing concerns about the recent rumors surrounding him. Kang Shik mentioned an upcoming election and wanted to ensure the rumors didn't disrupt their plans. He asked Tae-soo to avoid any involvement with Do-il. Later, Tae-soo met with Do-il, who wanted to settle in Seoul and sought Tae-soo's help with Mokpo's affairs. Tae-soo, fearing it would go against Kang Shik's wishes, tried to dissuade Do-il. Meanwhile, Sunggi visited Tae-soo's office, returning his belongings. She had discovered his affair with the newcomer actress and kicked him out of their home. The story then shifted to Do-il, who was expanding his territory, seemingly betraying Mr. Kim. Tae-soo worried about Do-il's betrayal and his own role in the gang, which involved administering a substance to enemies, turning them into meals for the gang's dogs. Later, in an elevator, Tae-soo encountered Hee-yeon, who handed him a newspaper to read. Dong Chol then emphasized the importance of the newspaper's contents. As Tae-soo reads the newspaper, he's shocked to see an article about Do-il forming a new gang, backed by prosecutor Tae-soo. This infuriates Dong Chol, who worries about Kang Shik's reputation as he's about to register as the prosecutor general. When Tae-soo meets Kang Shik, he gets brutally beaten, and Dong Chol tries to intervene but also ends up getting beaten. Dong Chol later tells Tae-soo that he must capture Do-il, or else Mr. Kim from Mokpo will kill them. The next day, Kang Shik transfers Tae-soo as part of his efforts to become the prosecutor general. Meanwhile, Mr. Kim takes control of Do-il's territory. In prison, Tae-soo visits Do-il, who vows revenge against those who put him behind bars. Do-il also entrusts his money to Tae-soo, but Tae-soo ends up giving some of it to Mr. Kim in a bid to save Do-il's life. The next day, Hee-yeon visits Tae-soo's villa. She remarks on the high cost of renting such a place and suspects that Tae-soo is using Do-il's money. Tae-soo realizes that Hee-yeon wants to capture Kang-shik and that he's become her target. To change the subject, Tae-soo brings up something else, making Hee-yeon uncomfortable, and she leaves. Tae-soo then confides in Dong-chul about Hee-yeon's visit. However, Dong-chul scolds him and advises Tae-soo to be cautious, especially since he's been transferred to a remote area. He suggests that Tae-soo either resign as a prosecutor or stay out of the way, as he doesn't want Kang-shik to be caught through Tae-soo. Feeling disappointed, Tae-soo hears from his subordinate that Do-il's assets and territory have been taken over by Mr. Kim, and Do-il's money is now in Tae-soo's possession. Do-il, feeling betrayed, vows revenge. Do-il confronts Tae-soo, who tearfully admits to using his money and ends their relationship. Later, Tae-soo is picked up by Kang-shik and Dong-chul to go drinking. While joking around in the car, Do-il crashes into them, injuring Tae-soo, Kang-shik, and Dong-chul. Tae-soo is left alone at the hospital when Kang-shik and Dong-chul depart. Following the incident, Do-il vanishes for 6 months. During this time, Do-il's henchmen meet with Tae-soo and reveal that Do-il actually saved him by causing the car accident. Tae-soo is initially confused, but they explain that Kang-shik working with Mr. Kim, they had planned to kill Tae-soo. Do-il learned of this plot and tried to save Tae-soo, but now both Do-il and Tae-soo are targets of Kang-shik and Mr. Kim. Hearing this, Tae-soo is overwhelmed with guilt and breaks down in tears. Meanwhile, Do-il resurfaces and confronts Mr. Kim and a fight ensues, resulting in Do-il getting stabbed and then being subjected to a special liquid before being torn apart by dogs. Mr. Kim and Kang-shik watch Do-il's gruesome death with satisfaction, while Tae-soo mourns his friend's fate. Soon after, Tae-soo's sister, Se-yeon, visits him and informs him that their father has been arrested without a clear reason. Concerned, Tae-soo calls Dong-chul to inquire about his father's situation. Dong-chul advises Tae-soo to resign and has everything arranged for him. Overwhelmed by the stress of his actions and yielding to Kang-shik's temptations, Tae-soo suddenly faints and regrets his choices while unconscious. Not long after, Kang-shik successfully becomes the prosecutor general, and Dong-chul is promoted. Tae-soo resigns from his position to secure his father's release. Eventually, Tae-soo recovers and uses the remaining money from Do-il to purchase a building, which he plans to turn into a prosecutor's office. Meanwhile, Hee-yeon gets transferred by Kang-shik, and Tae-soo joins forces with Hee-yeon to capture Kang-shik. Tae-soo also seeks help from his father-in-law and Sung-hee to introduce him to key figures in the opposition party. Later, Tae-soo addresses journalists, revealing his dark past and his determination to capture the prosecutor general and combat corruption within the prosecutor's office. The reporters eagerly ask questions, and before concluding the press conference, Tae-soo exposes Kang-shik's collaboration with the Mokpo Mafia, known as the Wild Dog Gang. Following the press conference, Kang-shik invites Tae-soo for a meeting and hands him files related to cases involving Tae-soo's father-in-law. Tae-soo stands his ground and reveals his knowledge about the Mokpo money trail linked to Kang-shik's wife in Canada. Kang-shik, asserting his embodiment of the prosecutor's history, challenges Tae-soo, claiming he cannot defeat him, and Tae-soo vows to give it his best. Kang-shik later holds a press conference to counter the accusations against Tae-soo and prevent Tae-soo from entering politics. However, Tae-soo's earlier statement has already garnered public attention, resulting in the successful arrest of the Wild Dog Gang. After the press conference, Tae-soo declares his political aspirations and seeks support from the party. Upon hearing this news, Kang-shik becomes increasingly agitated because Tae-soo is on the verge of gaining control over the most influential district in Seoul. Frustrated, Kang-shik decides to head to a storage room to retrieve crucial files that he can use against Tae-soo. However, in an unexpected turn of events, Hee-yeon arrives from behind and catches Kang-shik in the act. With this revelation, Tae-soo garners sympathy from the Korean people, and he successfully secures victory in the presidential election. Meanwhile, Hee-yeon's career advances and Tae-soo emerges as the winner of the election. Moral lesson from the story: In the pursuit of your dreams, don't let the allure of power and deception make you crash and burn like a wild ride in a car with no brakes.